Hello, I wanted to make a reaction to an article I saw recently on the Forward. I don't subscribe to the Forward, I just read it online. My wife emailed me the story, and it says the Hasidim, it's at Hasid's, which is of course improper, I don't even know what language that would be. It's not really English, the word's Hasidim, but the Hasid's won in Bloomingburg and everybody else lost. That's what it says, and that's what you would expect from a newspaper like the Forward, which has very famously communist roots. It's very well known. The purpose when they made the Forward was to drive people away from Judaism and into communism, and so they made a newspaper in Yiddish for that purpose, to try to drive Jews away from Judaism. Every now and then, to try to save face, they would let religious, columns and articles be printed in there, and I am totally supportive of the rabbis who did that, because they're trying to reach an audience that, at a certain point they were lost, and they needed, to be woken up, and, the editors allowed it for the purposes of, showing kind of like the Kastner train. They brought the Rebbe's on the train in order to make it seem like, we're going to bring everybody. So the same thing, the Forward sometimes would have religious columns. Back when it was the Daily Forward in Yiddish, they would have a weekly column by a rabbi and so forth, and different things like that. But their essence was for the purpose of assimilation, and they stated that when they started the Russian Forward, I don't know if that's still around, but it was also for the same reason, for the Russian Jews, to try to bring them away from Judaism. I mean, these people ran away from communism and they're trying to feed it back to them, but that's, they think they could do it in a different way, somehow that Bernie Sanders, democratic socialism is different than other, how communism bore out, but really they all come from the same roots and they bear the same fruit. In reality, and it kept bringing up the following. It said, it could sound like the opposition to the Hasidim was anti-Semitism, but then it showed that the opponents of the Hasidim, this one's Jewish, that one's Jewish, that one's Jewish. But the thing is that these people are the Forward type Jews. They're the commie Jews, the pinko Jews. They're not people who believe Judaism is a religion. They're really racists who think that Jewish identity is somehow a race that has nothing to do with God, nothing to do with the Bible, nothing to do with the Torah. And in reality, Orthodox Jews have much more in common with Christians and even Muslims than with these type of people who just happen to be born Jewish. That doesn't, you want a medal for being born to a certain parent? Like, that doesn't mean anything, just being born in a certain way. All it means in the religion is that you're obligated in something that other people are not obligated. It doesn't mean that you're better than someone else just because you're Jewish, And in reality, what's going on and it's ironic because these people will use terms that are the exact opposite. All these people are carpetbaggers who came from the city, who want to bring their liberal, Wilsonian, Obama, Rooseveltian city values to the country, the Bernie Sanders values, and bring these, try to turn the rural areas into city-minded places with, Comrade de Blasio using progressive ideology to stamp on private freedoms, because of course they're statists who don't care about individual people, don't care about individual freedoms. They care about their ideology and forwarding their ideology. We noticed the newspaper called The Forward. Today, The Forward is not exactly the same it was 100 years ago, I'll admit, but still it has an ideology of bringing people away from Orthodox Judaism, or changing the tones and things and different things. And again, there are certain rabbis who will use it, and I commend them. I mean, I myself can see the use in that. But that's not, the point what we're bringing out here. But in any event, the issue in Bloomingburg, and for that matter, Kiryas Joel, Muncie, all these places, they call it the East Ramapo School District, etc., has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. It has everything to do with anti-Americanism. You'll notice everyone is trying to claim that somehow Donald Trump is an anti-Semite and people on his cabinet are anti-Semites. To say Donald Trump's an anti-Semite. Donald Trump's daughter is an Orthodox Jew. All his grandchildren are Jewish. All of his children-in-law, his son-in-law and his daughters-in-law are all Jewish. He's the furthest thing from anti-Semite. He was the first to open up in Mar-a-Lago the country clubs to blacks and to Jews. He's not a racist. He's not an anti-Semite. If anything, what's good about the multiculturalism of New York, that, we do indeed have different types of cultures, different ideas, but in a constitutional sense of individual freedoms, not that somehow, the will of the minority trumps the will of the majority, things like that, but in the original sense that our founding fathers intended, to a certain extent, although he does have, unfortunately, some progressive tendencies which are troublesome. But we were voting for the lesser of two evils. If it was up to me, we'd have someone like Ted Cruz or something as our president. Unfortunately, we have Trump, who's a little bit too much to the left, but in a way he couldn't bring people together. But the leftism that I don't have a problem with, his multiculturalism, his love for different religions and different races, as he's expressed many times. All of the groups that people claim that he's against, he's time and time again said, I love the Mexican people, I love the Muslim people. I mean, he's very clearly made, he doesn't have any problem, with people of different groups. He just, wants to protect and uphold the rule of law. That's besides the point. All the people who I was at a meeting a few weeks ago, more than a month ago now, and I said that it's the Bernie Sanders type people who are opposing this development in Bloomingburg, and there was big cheers. I wish I had a video camera to show this, that it's communism. It's a fight between America and communists. I mean, this is why we need Senator McCarthy back, really. And these people are trying on the local level to infiltrate, to change America and take away private property rights, capitalism, and freedom of religion, because those are the three things that communism hates the most, is private property rights, capitalism, and religious freedom. Of course we know Marx said that religion is the opiate of the masses, but yet in China, they do have religion, but it has to be approved by the government. And these type of people would love to see something like that, that all the religion is approved by the government, because, in essence, really, when that happens, it destroys the religion. When you see, that's the old that America was founded to fight against. Whereas in Europe, the king and the church were together. That's what we see today in Israel, and we see in other, countries that are traditionally religious countries. Now they're not religious. Italy is, the Vatican is within the borders of Italy. It's its own separate country, but Italy is, a Catholic country, and yet, less than 20% of people in Italy go to church every week, and I don't even know how many go on Christmas, and Easter, the big holidays. Why? Because when the religion and the government are so intertwined, it's the same thing in Israel. People are upset the rabbinate, the so-called rabbinate, to be like a pope on Judaism, and really overstepping their boundaries, particularly in areas of conversion, in a really horrifying way. How they really have like a stranglehold on conversion, in other countries, in Latin American countries, it's almost impossible to convert to Judaism because of why? And in much of Europe, most of the world, the so-called chief rabbinate of Israel have, destroyed the freedom of local rabbis to perform conversions. And I think that's also linked to racism, because it is the Zionist state, the Zionist chief rabbinate, and the UN did say that Zionism is racism. And that's really also linked to this. And Zionism is also linked to Marxism. Even religious Zionism, really, if you study, the writings of Rabbi Kook, it reads like one friend of mine who was a rabbi with the rabbinate years ago and was under arrest for opposing certain things in Israel, and now is a very strong anti-Zionist. This rabbi, a very respectable, retired rabbi, very great genius and a great scholar, really incredible person. I'm not going to mention his name because he could get in trouble. I don't want to, but he said that Rabbi Kook's writings read almost like some kind of a radical pamphlet, that some Marxist pamphlet or something, and except with a spiritual tinge to it. We have this, in certain churches and synagogues in the world today, there's what they call the social justice gospel and things like that are really linked to Marxism and watering down religion, watering down religious freedom, and so forth. Now, but that's beside the point. But in reality, like I said, and like I proved at this meeting a few weeks ago, there's nothing to do with anti-Semitism in Bloomingburg. There are very few Christians at the leadership, for sure not, and if they're Christians, they might be Christian in name only. They're not people who go to church every week, not, real strong, like evangelicals and things like that, who are fighting this development in Bloomingburg. And some of those who are, just because they bought a lot of the propaganda that these Marxist propagandists, the self-hating Jews who are very good at propaganda, and they run the banks and they run the media and all these things, and so they have this influence and they've learned their craft very, very well. It's very well known that the some of the biggest propagandists in the 20th century history who brainwashed people had ties to secular Marxist Zionists. In any event, that's neither here nor there, but the point that I'm bringing out is that this is not an issue of anti-Semitism. There's no anti-Semitism here. It's not even just, although there's an aspect of this, these are self-hating Jews who are upset that now they're getting reminded. They thought they could run away, run out of the city, and forget that there's a God in the world, and their God is putting a smack in their face. No, you're supposed to keep Shabbos, you're supposed to keep mitzvahs, but that's beside the point, because we live in a free country. They can do whatever the hell they want. So that's not really an issue. But the real big issue here is that this is a fight between people who believe in free market capitalism, who believe in private property rights, and who believe in religious freedom. That's almost a third issue. The real big issues are private property rights. Someone bought a property and went through legal means to annex that property into a village, because the laws of that village allowed certain building rights. And really, the whole thing of all these regulations and all are, a slap in the face of what this country was founded on: freedom, that we're, people on their own private property should be free to do what they want. And the reason why these Marxist elements are fighting it doesn't matter. The Hasidim are just an easy target because they're unpopular. And they're mostly unpopular because the Zionists have made a strong, propaganda war against them. But, it's not an issue of, it has nothing to do with religion. It's really the main crux of all of these things is private property, religious freedom, things like that. Because the progressives, the Marxists, want to uproot the Constitution and fundamentally change this country. And they had their president for the past 8 years doing this, and now the tides have changed. So really, in a sense, a place like Bloomingburg is a microcosm of America, because it's between the people who voted for Hillary Clinton, who really wanted to vote for Bernie Sanders, except Hillary Clinton stole the election from Bernie Sanders, and they saw Hillary as a lesser of two evils, and the second best choice, but they really wanted Bernie Sanders. And the people who meaning people who hate America and hate America as it's founded, see America as evil, and want to destroy America and turn it into some commie, pinko country, or the people who wanted to vote for Ted Cruz, but because Donald Trump stole the election because he's really a Democrat, but he's an old-fashioned Democrat at least. He's maybe more like like JFK or somebody who wasn't perfect, but he has a lot in common with JFK, and his outlook and things in life, and his charisma and all these things. But because the Democrats put in open primaries in so many states, they were able to infiltrate, and they elected a guy who they thought could never win, in order to try to help the Democrats to win, when really, Ted Cruz should have won. But we wound up, because of the open primaries, because of so many Democrats and independents voting in Republican primaries, the first state that Trump won in a Republican primary that was a closed state was New York, which was one, his home state, and two, it was near the end of the game, and yet that's the one that he won, that's the first one he won. But anyway, he won. And so, those of us who really want to vote for Ted Cruz, wound up being stuck having to vote for him, for Trump as a lesser of two evils. But meaning people who want freedom, people who want the Constitution to be restored, to go back, to see someone like Justice Scalia replacing Justice Scalia, things like that. And, really in that way, that's basically what it's about. And this has nothing to do necessarily with religion, although it's useful for these Marxists to use this, and it gains them certain. But in reality, the people that everyone would think are quote unquote like rednecks are welcoming the Hasidim, because they're bringing new jobs and bringing new prosperity into the community. And the same freedoms that the Hasidim want for themselves, they don't just want for themselves, they want for everyone. They want New York to be free, it could be a state like Texas or something, So in any event, that's what this is really all about. And I really wanted to bring that point out, especially in light of this Forward article, that, this is really what the issue is. It's a question between really America and communism, because most of these people fighting the development in Bloomingburg are commies. They're not people, they call themselves rural community. They're not rural people. They're all from Manhattan and Brooklyn, and they're bringing their de Blasio ideology to the country, where was really more of a rural Christian society, and the people who have old rural ties actually are supporting this. So it's very interesting and very different than people think. And thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and God bless.